And if Jen has any questions, she'll pipe in from behind the camera.
Okay.
Hello, and welcome to Journeys with Judy. Happy New Year. This is our first show of 2020.
Yes.
And we are in Baltimore, Maryland with Dino Calabrese. Calabrese, okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, this is great. We struggled a little bit finding your house, only because we couldn't see the house numbers. It was a little dark.
Yeah.
But we found it. We didn't knock on any doors. We did go up on one porch, though.
Which one?
705?
Right here?
Yeah, next door.
Yeah.
Over there?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, we didn't
Yeah.
knock, though.
Look it up, and I was like,
that was smart. She probably would have.
right. I was like, I don't think this is right.
We were like, oops. So anyway, we are here.
Yeah.
You are here. You're
Yeah.
just fresh back from California.
I am.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And not feeling so great.
Getting over a cold.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
thank you for still allowing us to come.
Not a problem.
All right.
Happy to see you.
Now, Dino is an interior decorator.
Mm-hmm.
He owns Interiors by Dino, and he is also an intuitive counselor,
Yes.
clairvoyant,
I am a medium.
a medium.
Yeah.
And that, is it a separate company that's Joyous Dino?
Joyous Dino is my website for my medium.
For your mediumship. Okay.
Mhm.
Because yes, they're two separate ones, but yet you combine your work too, together.
Well, yeah.
We'll talk about that later.
All right.
Excellent. All right, we're going to start off nice. By the way, I'm Judy Forder, your host, and Jen Bucko is behind the camera, making everything
Hello.
look pretty and function well. So we'll start nice and easy. Where were you born and raised?
I was born in Washington, D.C. I'm raised in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
And I was in D.C. until I was about 15 or 16, and then we moved to the suburbs, to Maryland. Mm-hmm.
Why did you move?
It got, we moved,
Just because you needed to.
yes.
Okay.
Yes,
We'll leave it
yes.
at that.
It was getting rough where I was living,
Okay.
where we were living, yeah.
Now, did you move to this area in
No,
Baltimore?
no. We moved to Maryland, out in, originally in a real, like in the Forestville area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I went to Catholic school, and so we moved near my Catholic school.
Okay. I bet that was an adventure in itself.
It was definitely an adventure.
Do you have any siblings?
I do. I have an older sister and an older brother, and I have a younger brother.
All right. You fall right in line like me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
third.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Now, the older brother,
My older brother's in California.
that's the one you were visiting.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, you're close with all your siblings?
Yes. Yeah.
And is your sister and is it a younger brother?
Yeah. My sister is in a home. She's a disabled,
Okay.
and she's in a home in D.C. And my younger brother lives out at on the shore of Southern Maryland.
Is it fun to visit him as well?
Well, I don't get a chance to visit him because it's about an hour and 45 minutes away, and we just maybe see each other 2 or 3 times a year because of the schedules.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm pretty busy.
You're a busy man.
Yeah.
No doubt. Just to break, the first year Jen and I went to Spirit of Oneness, we were going around to give invitations. The show was just starting and people didn't really know us too much, but we were going around to all the vendors. And we would pass by your booth, and there was never a time that you were not busy.
Yeah.
So we couldn't even introduce ourselves to you. So we are very glad to finally have you here.
Good,
We've been
good,
stalking
yeah.
you for 2 years. It would seem.
Yeah.
But anyway, so how would you best describe your childhood?
Bizarre.
Okay.
Yes, it was bizarre. My parents were wonderful people, but we grew up Italian.
Okay.
We grew up very Italian, Look at the pretty horse over there. It's got to be Italian. It's pretty. Look at that pretty girl over there. She's got to be Italian. She's pretty. Yeah. It was like,
Okay,
Yeah.
so things were pretty.
Yes. And my father was a barber, and my mother was a stay-at-home mom, and my father played the guitar and sang. So on Friday nights, pretty much on the weekends, the Italians would get together and play the mandolin and sing, and it was a fun house. It was crazy but fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is one of your fondest childhood memories?
I think my fondest childhood memories was probably when my father would have me on his lap and he would play the guitar and sing to me. That's probably my favorite of childhood. And I think the other one was when I was in 5th grade, and we were in Catholic school, so they really, Friday you would have art class and that would be it. But I remember getting, in 5th grade, we got a box of charcoals or pastels. And the first time I got to play with the pastel, and the teacher said, "Oh, you should be doing art. You should be doing art." I think that was the best time, because that's from the time I could remember as a little child, like about 4. All I wanted to do was be Leonardo da Vinci.
Oh, really?
I wanted to be a painter. I wanted to be an artist. That's all I ever wanted to do. I wanted to design. I never had any thought of doing anything else.
Really?
So when she validated that, because Italians don't validate you're going to be an artist. You're going to be a plumber or a doctor. Yeah.
Artist, no way.
No, no way. Can't make money.
No, exactly.
Boys don't do that.
Okay,
Yeah.
so leading with that statement,
Uh-huh.
what was challenging for you as a child?
Growing up.
Growing up.
Growing up Catholic.
Yeah.
Because I was very blessed. I always kind of had listened to my inner voice. I pretty much, my siblings and I were distance apart. Like my brother was 5 years older than me, and my younger brother's 9 years younger than me.
Wow. Okay.
So we pretty much grew up as only children, doing our own thing. And it was tough, because all I wanted to do was draw. And I really, my passion was clothing. And I wanted to be a clothing designer, which I became later on in life. And so, little boys play baseball. They don't design
clothes.
Especially evening wear. Yeah.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
So, at what point did you just finally say, were you a teenager when you declared, I want to design clothes, I want to be an artist? Or?
No. I declared it when I was about 4.
And you just rode with it all the way through?
I did. It wasn't easy, because my parents didn't want us to do. My brothers were musical. My older brother was musical. I was not.
Right.
I was. The only rhythm I had was dancing.
Okay.
And but instruments, no. And my father played instrument. My brother played instrument. And
was your mother musical?
No,
not at all. Okay.
No. But she was very creative. She sewed.
Okay.
She sewed, and she was a great cook, good Italian mother, but definitely creative in that way. Yeah.
And was she willing to teach you to sew?
Actually, she did teach me
She
to
did?
sew. Actually, I watched her.
You learned from watching.
I learned from watching her more than anything. Yeah.
So when did you start your own sewing?
I started my own sewing probably later, probably in my 20s.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how did you maneuver through your teen years?
Okay. Teen years were, I think I did a couple drugs.
Okay.
No, I really didn't. Just kidding. In my teen years, well, let me put it this way. I always had the gift of intuition, which we all do.
Right.
And I always struggled with that. That was my struggle. So one of the things that was interesting was when I went through Catholic school, because you have no choice. You have to go to Catholic school. And I always, my inner voice would say, I'm not buying this. I can't buy this. It just wasn't working for me.
Right.
And that goes back to my second grade. I remember first communion, I got in trouble. Second, confirmation, I got in trouble because I questioned and I didn't buy into it. But I'm getting to where I'm going to go.
No.
But it wasn't until high school that I actually got asked to leave school.
Really?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you questioned.
Because I questioned and then I told them how I felt. So I was asked to leave, which was,
Wow.
that was tough because my mother thought, I was going to go to hell.
Right.
And, my father probably thought, oh, thank God, no more tuition, right? Okay. But going from 10 years of Catholic into public was tough. And I finally got to, what were we talking about?
Talk about challenging years in your teens.
Teens. The thing with my teens was, I was one of these, I tried everything, I tried everything, and I did take art in high school. In public school they offered art, and I was told I would never forget it, never gonna happen. I mean, the teacher would tear up my work all the time and say, it's waste of time and da-da-da.
Wow.
Which, again, like with my my intuition, told not to do it, not to use it,
Right.
don't set me back again. And I don't know, I guess once I graduated from high school, I went right into I went into a clothing store right away in my senior year, and once I got out of there, I got handed a position of doing interiors for Woodward and Lothrop, which is a department store that was big here in DC, and I was display, and there I just kind of
Did your thing.
did my thing. I came out, I enjoyed my life, I was being creative, my parents were dying, they hated it, and but it started where I became, getting hired to do all kinds of things, and I got hired eventually to do, I used to do all the windows in DC, and then was well known.
That's really cool.
And then I opened up a vintage, I worked with another company, and we opened up a vintage clothing store in the 70s that became part of fashion, and then I got involved with that group of people, and then I ventured out to California, thinking that the conflict was that because I used to use my intuition, my energy centers, when I would open up my energy centers, I would pick up on all energy. And it got really tough. And being young and being popular, all of a sudden, after never being popular,
Right.
it was more than I could handle. So I thought, I'm going to go. I had gone to visit a friend many years earlier and gone to California, and I thought, I'd like to go to California and maybe do costuming.
Oh.
So when I went to California, which was in the 70s, there was no fashion. There was just no fashion. So now I'm walking around
Not in California?
No. In LA it was still cowboy boots and blue jeans
Really?
and t-shirts. And
That's hard to imagine.
yeah, and here I was coming from DC and New York and traveling all over, and
Now, I have to ask you, when you became popular and your work was respected, did your parents come around?
no,
No, they still didn't. Wow. Wow.
they wouldn't have understood it. They wouldn't have understood the caliber of people. They wouldn't have understood, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, models and the whole, everybody was doing coke in those days and partying. It was disco. It was
Right.
disco. We used to go to Studio 54 all the time and party. Yeah. And it was, wild times. And my parents would never have understood that.
Okay.
So anyway, but that's another interesting thing. But so anyway, I went to California. There was no fashion, and I was like maybe trunks and trunks and boxes of clothes, and I would wear them, but nobody else would wear them. So people thought I was in the film bit, thought I was in film, like making movies.
Right.
And I was going, no. So I couldn't get a job. I tried everything. I couldn't get a job. So I answered an ad for a dance teacher in Beverly Hills.
Really?
With Fred Astaire Studios. So, and I just kind of said, oh, I could do that. I just don't know the curriculum.
Okay.
I have to learn your curriculum. And they said, all right, we'll teach you the curriculum. They liked my dancing. So,
Right.
so I did that for 2 years, and I competed.
You could.
Yeah, I did.
Sure, I can do that.
Well, when you have to, right?
Right.
And then I got a call to come back east to design clothes and open up a store and another store. And so I came back and it didn't work out. And I ended up getting another offer to design evening wear. And that's when I got into designing clothing. So I designed evening wear for couture. And,
For couture.
and then that didn't work out for me. And it worked out for me to a degree. And then it was time to move on. And I happened to, years earlier, had a friend that's father was in the t-shirt business actually, and he kept saying, I want you to work for my company, and I kept saying, I don't want to design t-shirts.
Right.
I was just designing evening wear. I was designing mother of the bride gowns.
And you want me to do some t-shirts.
Drag gowns and pageant gowns. I'm not going to do t-shirts. And but as if you just go with the flow and trust, he made me an offer I couldn't refuse. And so I thought, okay, I'll do it temporarily because I could use the money. And I did it. And what happened was I ended up turning the company around, and I introduced wearable art to the textile industry. Wearable art to the sportswear industry. It was big in Paris, and I introduced it to sportswear. And so we did all kinds of, and I worked with chemists and ended up becoming a consultant to the textile industry, and I got to travel all over the world. And
That's amazing.
it was fun.
That's amazing.
It was fun. And then, and it was one of my passions. So, I always believe if you follow your heart and you follow your passion, you get rewarded, and I did. And then the recession hit.
Ugh.
Yeah, so I actually traveled for 8 years, and for 3 weeks out of the month for 8 years.
Wow.
I was doing a lot of traveling. So, and I had several videos were made of me and my work, and I was training all over the world, and I got to work with the people from Chanel, and I got to open up stores in Saint-Tropez, and I had a couple of my own lines, and
That's so cool.
yeah, it was fun. It was fun. I loved it. But then the recession hit, and so it wasn't. Just kept going down and down and down, and the politicians decided that Mexico would be better to do manufacturing than the United States, and so lost a lot of work there. And then I got a lot of work in California again. So people said, well, why don't you just move back? And I said, well, no, And they said, well, why don't you just move back there? There'll never be a recession in California.
Uh-huh.
And fashion started picking up there and happening. And I said, okay. So I moved back to California. And the first year I did really well. And then the recession hit me there.
They said it wouldn't.
They said.
They lied.
Yeah. And then from there, I got offers to open up a couple businesses, and it just didn't work out. My partners were not,
Mm-hmm.
it just didn't work out. And then I ended up getting hurt, and my go back a little bit. Back in Florida, I moved to Miami to do the couturier and to do the work. So I lived in Miami for 5 years. And while I was there, I had another epiphany in life and realized that I should trust my intuition more and stay on my path, which is what I desire to do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so from that, I started kind of letting my intuitiveness work. I started, when I was a little child, I was reading minds.
Okay.
Mama said no. And then in my teen years, I was dreaming and telling kids about what I was dreaming and flipping them out. So,
Okay.
it was hard enough to have friends to begin with, much less, right?
Right.
Okay. And so stopped. And then when I had this epiphany, I thought, you know what? I did pretty dang good. I was doing really well and listening to this instead of listening to this. So I went back to listening to this.
Mm-hmm.
And this brought me to where I was starting to read people or listening to, spirits around you.
Okay.
Okay.
So I have to ask, what brought on the epiphany?
The epiphany came on to a broken relationship.
Okay.
And I happened to, there was this, you remember, I don't know if you remember, because, but in the, this would be in the 80s,
Mhm.
early 80s, or in the early 80s. There was all kinds of groups like, called EST, and, okay, don't ask me what that means. These were all self-awareness groups.
Okay.
And you would go, and there was places called Life Spring and EST. And EST would be like something like 80% lecture and 20% participation. And Life Spring would be 20%. And it's where people would just go and find get in touch with their inner self. And, I remember going out with someone that, would be burping in public. And I'd say, you have to burp in public? You have to burp we're in a restaurant, you have to burp. I could do anything I want, empowerment. It was all about empowerment. And I went to this group. I was kind of, a friend of mine had gone to this group. A bunch of my friends in Florida had gone at the time to this group, and I was pretty down. And they said, oh, it was great, it was wonderful, da, 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 da. And I said, yeah. And I went to their graduation. And when I went to their graduation, they had a reception. And the facilitator of this group said to me at this reception, I really am enjoying your energy. Can I have your phone number? And I said, sure. I thought it was maybe a date.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I didn't
Right.
know
That
what,
sounds like a pickup line to me.
I didn't know what it was about. But anyway, I got a call a couple of days later at work, and now at this time I'm working in the factories in Florida, and said, I want you to take this course. And I said, oh, that's very nice of you. I said, how much is this course? He says, it's about $600-700. And I said, no, I'm not going to do this course. I mean, at that time I was just leaving the couture business and getting involved with the, the t-shirt business, which I didn't want to be in. at the time. And then he says, no, I like your energy. I'm going to give you the course. I'm going to let you do it for nothing. I want your energy there.
Okay.
So I thought, well,
It's free. All right.
my brother always said, never refuse a free cocktail at a club. When you go to the club,
I like that.
Never refuse a free cocktail, right? So I said, all right, so I did it, and I thought, okay, maybe this will get me out of my depression. Well, it kind of did, because I realized that everybody there had problems.
Mm-hmm.
I really didn't have any problems. My problems were my problems.
Right.
I just was not on my path.
Okay.
And when you get off your path, you're kind of lost.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought, well, I really don't have any problems. They have problems. These people really have problems. My parents were crazy and wacky, but they were loving and wonderful and animated, and so I didn't have these childhood traumas, But anyway, so when I did that was my epiphany, and my epiphany was, let me get back on listening to this instead of listening to this, and be grateful for where I'm at. And as soon as I did that, like I said, I ended up flipping the company I was working for, business around, and we ended up, it was $1 million business. It became in the millions, and we're traveling all over. I mean, I did well.
Right.
I did really well. So, but that's what you have to do. Sometimes you don't know. You always think the grass is always greener on the other side.
Right.
So, anyway, years later, I'm back in California, and I lose a business, and which was not good, and I hurt my back. I hurt my I got 2 herniated discs, but it was severe because I couldn't walk.
Oh.
So for 2 years, I was in extreme pain, and I kept going to all these doctors and everything, and getting all these treatments and doing all this therapy, and nothing was helping. And I ended up in talk shows. Where they pay you $5 an hour. Fortunately, I had a big savings. I had money in my savings from being a designer, but I couldn't stand up more than 5 minutes a day. So I had to get a job where I could sit.
Right.
And that was the only job I could find that I could sit. And believe me, nobody, I remember one time the first time I was in California, I applied for a job at Sonny Bono's, just opened up a restaurant in West Hollywood. And I went in to become a waiter, and everybody, I went there, it said, come between 11 and 4, and I was there at 11:15, and they already had a stack of like this for waiters. And fortunately, at that time, I wore big shoulder pads and funky clothes, and we were wearing vintage clothing, and I had my 1940s pants on or whatever. And nobody dressed in California at that time. And Sonny Bono happened to walk in, and he goes, I want to meet this guy. I want to meet this guy. And we talked, and he looked at my resume, and he goes, I'm sorry, kid, you don't know how to work in a restaurant. I said, but I've eaten in good restaurants.
Yeah, I know how to eat.
He says, yeah, it doesn't work. That's when I went over to become a dance teacher. But anyway, I was in pain, and I found out I can't keep doing these talk shows. It was getting to be obnoxious, $5 an hour. What do you And I was living in Brentwood, so so a friend of mine said, why don't you join a temp agency? And I thought, okay, what can I do? Right, what can I do? So I go to a temp agency, and of course they looked at me and they said, I said, look, I can read and write. I've traveled all over the world. I can file. I can do whatever I need to do. I need to be working. That's, and I got a job. They hired me. I can't believe it. And they sent me to like 4 or 5 different places, and each one wanted to hire me. And but I didn't want to work for them. And then finally, the lady at the temp agency says, I want you to go work in the mailroom at the Screen Actors Guild. And I said, oh, I can't do that. mailroom. I can't stand up. I'm gonna be in pain. How I'm gonna can't tell her I'm in, I'm gonna be back. So anyway, I said, okay, do it. I'm just gonna do it. So I did it, and that was another whole story. But to make a long story short, there they loved me, and I ended up working there for almost 5 years.
In the mailroom?
No.
No, I was gonna
No.
say I don't see you in the.
No, I was in
Can
the.
you clip your mic to your shirt?
Oh, my lost it.
It's getting. I don't even know where it is. There it is.
Mhm.
Okay, it's our first time with them, so.
Okay. No, the mailroom.
I was thinking, there's no way you
I
stayed
didn't
5
do
years in the
very.
mailroom.
I didn't do very good because remember I don't buy into trips.
Right.
So I finally they hired me at the mailroom. They loved me, and then they hired me back. And when I went back to the mailroom, they laughed because they said, I was supposed to set the residual checks would go out. And the residual checks would go out by the thousands for the actors. If you're on television and you're getting a residual check, so let's say you're on television 6 times all over the country or 12 times, well, you're going to get a check for every one.
Each separate.
Separate.
Oh wow.
So it might be 2 cents a check, it might be whatever. But anyway, because they would send out thousands of checks a day, they would get it for like less than 7 cents a letter, postage.
Mm-hmm.
Well, of course, duh me, right? They went out at like 75 cents.
Uh-oh.
But fortunately, so it was a big joke when I got back. But when I got back, I worked with the manager of the mailroom. He was a wacky doodle. I mean, he was a nut. And I looked at him, but after working with him for 2 days, and I looked at him and I said, it was only for 2 days I had to work there. I said, have you ever thought of going to therapy? He goes, I am in therapy. I said, good, please stay there. I said, because I really understand what going postal is. I get it.
Wow.
I really get it, because this man was a wacky doodle. Anyway, I thought, well, that's the end of that job.
You're done.
I'm done. And then they called me back for agency, and then I worked in agency, and then they hired me full time. And agency was fun. Agency was where I got to do the contracts for the actors, between the actors and the agents. So I got to meet all the actors, and I got to,
Wow.
got into their personal stuff, and that was fun. And then I wanted to make more money, so they offered me a higher position. So
Who was your favorite actor that you got to meet?
There were several. The one that I met, I met quite a few
Right.
in person, but the one I think I liked the best was Cliff Robertson. Was nice, and Patricia Neal. Do you know any of those?
Mm-hmm. I know Patricia Neal, yeah.
Patricia Neal was really wonderful. I met a lot. Milton Berle
Milton Berle?
on the phone.
Sweet. Now, you have, I've seen 2 or 3 autographs here.
Yeah.
Are they from your time working, or no?
No.
You've collected them?
No, that one is from when I lived in California. The second time, my roommate was a script supervisor, and she did a film with Bridget Fonda. That's Bridget Fonda.
Okay.
And so I loved Bridget Fonda. So Bridget Fonda said, "Oh,
That's awesome."
Yeah. This one up here is Jean Harlow. I had a big collection of Jean Harlow years ago, and this is an actual autograph from her, and this is her actual wedding invitation when she was married to Paul Burns, and Paul Burns was the producer that killed himself. Yeah. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is a Ziegfeld Follies girl. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, you
There's
have a lot of
yeah,
cool stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't go searching through your house, but the few rooms we were in, they're very
Yeah.
cool.
Thanks. Anyway, so that's it. And then
Okay, so you spent a couple years in agency, and then what?
well, while I was doing and then I got into residuals, where I did the files for between for bankruptcies and whatever with the lawyers. I prepared the files for the lawyers and got them ready for bankruptcies and all that stuff. And
So
it was
you
good.
did know a lot of the nitty gritty.
Well, oh, I knew,
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And that was fun. And then I met someone, and then we ended up moving away. So, and then but I always did my readings. I was doing readings.
All through that time you were doing readings?
Yeah, I was doing readings there part-time, on the side.
Mm-hmm.
And I started getting a lot of referrals, and I did well there. And then
So you were like the original Hollywood medium?
yes,
Ah,
yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, did you read celebrities too?
Yes.
Yes. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Uh-huh.
So you met someone and you moved.
Yes, we moved to San Diego, and then from San Diego we moved to Northern California. And we were together for over 10 years, about 10 years, and then it didn't work out. And while I was there, I was working. It's another long story, but I don't want to get into it. Anyway, I went from doing interiors again with Macy's.
Okay, so you went back to design.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then it wasn't Macy's. Doesn't pay anything. They're not one of my favorite companies.
Okay.
Okay. But anyway, so I got offered a position doing property management in San Francisco. Yes, but it was great because where I worked was was right next to San Francisco State University, and we were 124 acres of property.
Wow.
And we had something like 2,700 apartments.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and we used to drive in PT Cruisers, and I was making actually 6 figures doing it.
Really?
So yeah, so it was good. It was good.
You've had quite a life. I mean, we haven't even heard all of it.
Right.
But wow.
Yeah, I've had a great life. I'm very blessed.
Wow.
And I'll tell you, it's because I didn't have. It wasn't always great.
Mm-hmm.
There were things that happened, and they weren't very pretty things, but were good things. But only because I stopped listening to my inner voice.
Mm.
When you listen to other people, and people love to tell you how to live your life.
Oh yes.
Especially when you're nice and you're they like to, oh, no. You need to be making bigger and more money. You need to be doing this. You need to be doing that. You want to meet somebody, you need to do, it's all a bunch of nonsense. And you listen to them, and the next thing you know, you're starving,
Mm-hmm.
or you're just struggling, or you're, it's not working for you.
Right.
And you have to go back to your inner voice.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what happened with this. I did this, and I was doing well,
Mm-hmm.
and I was getting sick,
Okay.
and I never get sick.
Mm-hmm. I was gonna say,
But ended up moving back to Los Gatos, which is right outside of San Francisco,
Mm-hmm.
over in the Santa Cruz Mountains. Nice. And then my partner, things didn't go well with his work, and what happened was I went back and worked for Macy's, and because I didn't have to work.
Okay, gotcha.
Then I had to work.
Okay.
And so when I had to work, I said to Macy's, okay, I will become a manager. Now, mind you, they wouldn't let me become a manager unless I went through all this rigmarole for 2 or 3 years. Now, the reality is when I was 21 years old, I was a manager at Woodward and Lothrop here in D.C. and did the same job.
Right.
It was just...
And how many years later was that?
Well, I was in my 50s.
Okay.
my late 40s at the time. And then, so 20 some years.
That's a lot of living in 20 some years.
Yeah. And then, I said to Macy's, I said, I want to do this, I need to make some more money. And they said, well, you got to wait 2 years. See what I mean? And I thought, oh, this is ridiculous. I worked for you now for 5 years, back and forth, you know, I stayed on with them the whole time on call, and I worked all the time in between on my days off, and because I liked my discount, and and I said, all right, I'm just gonna have to quit. Well, if you quit, you're not coming back. I said, well, that's okay.
Okay.
That's okay. So I said, I'm not worried about it. And for some reason, the apartments, the property management job, they called me up and they said, we'll make a deal with you if you come back. I said,
Wow.
okay. I said, funny, you should call. Like the next day.
Divine timing.
The next day. And they offered me a great position, and and because they were going to sell the company, and I went back there, and I worked maybe another 2 years, and then the company sold, and the new company hired me, and they really didn't know what they were doing, and I was getting sick again because I was doing what they were telling me to do, and I wasn't making any money.
So when you talk about getting sick, what kind of sick was it?
I was getting like bronchitis, and I was getting from stress.
Right.
Stress. I was
Stressed
used to
out.
being creative. I'm not used to this, you know, hello.
Okay.
People sneezing on you and the whole bit. Not that I'm a snob or anything, but it's boring. It was
Right.
boring to me. I wasn't
You weren't
feeling.
being creative.
I wasn't being me.
Right.
I wasn't being me. So I just said, I've been doing readings, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to get back. I'm going to get into interiors, and I'm going to just. I'm going to practice what I preach, because here I'm doing readings, and I'm getting in touch with all these wonderful spirits from the other side, and they're telling me to tell people to do this and trust your inner voice and and I'm thinking, I'm gonna practice what I preach. So I said, I'm gonna quit. And they went ballistic, and they said, you can't quit, you're in your 50s now, where are you gonna go, you got benefits, you're making big money, and who's going to hire you with your background? And I said, you know what? I'm going to quit. So I gave him 2 months' notice.
2 months.
And, well, yeah, because
Right.
I did a lot there, and was grateful. And I had to get my act together and find work. And a week before I was to quit, I panicked. I started panicking, and I'm thinking, holy, what am I thinking? I'm paying for everything now in California. I'm paying for 2 people, place to live, everything, and I'm paying it all out of my pocket, and I'm thinking, maybe I'd better ask for my job back. And then I thought about it, and I said, no, you know what? I surrendered this to the universe. I'm going to trust the universe. And as soon as I said that, I was at my desk. A friend of mine called from Los Angeles and said, gee, I wish you weren't working. And I said, why?
Well, guess what?
I would love to redo my home. And I said, really? Yeah. She says, yes. She says, and if you were here, I'd have you do it. And I said, oh, when would you be doing it? She said, I would start next week. I said, okay, I'll be there. And I went there, and I worked on her house, and then I went back up north, and I thought, oh, what am I going to do now? And then said, I'm going to trust the universe. I'm surrendering this to the universe. And just then a friend of mine from Maryland called and said, gee, I wish you were here. I've got about 40 people that would like to have readings.
Wow.
And I said, really? She said, yeah. She says, could you come? And I said, well, let me see if I could get a decent fare.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, the fares were decent. And she said, don't worry, I'll send you a ticket. I've got enough points, I'll send you a ticket. So came down here and I did 40 readings in 1 week. Went back up there and I thought, that got me through this month. You know, because it isn't cheap in California.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, okay, what am I going to do now? I'm going to surrender it to the universe. A friend of mine called in Florida. Said, what you been up to? I said, I just got back from Maryland. I saw a friend of ours and I did, oh, you know, I forgot you did readings. She said, why don't you come here? I'll send you a ticket. And then next thing I knew, back in LA, I was in LA and celebrity called. Can I send my car to pick you up? I would like reading. And then I was back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And that's how I got into doing readings. So now I do more readings than I do interiors.
Right.
Yeah. But.
Wow. So what made you come and anchor in Baltimore then?
Okay. So, because I was doing so much traveling,
Mm-hmm.
my partner and I, it didn't work. It just
Okay.
didn't work out. And I had moved in San Francisco, and again, everybody's telling me how to live my life, and how I could make my business grow, and how I could do this, and how I could do that. And you know, sometimes you just can't listen to people, because every time you listen to them, and you don't listen to this, you know, even if 95% of the world says, you know, if you're going to get good food, you got to shop at such and such a store, and you got to do it at such and such a time, and you do it just the way they do it, and you get crap, you know. And then you find, well, my gut feeling was telling me maybe I should have gone to that store instead of listening to you and go to that store. And I go to that store, and here I'm getting great stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You get it?
Yep.
So I thought, okay, so I'm traveling back and forth. And a friend of mine says, why don't you just stay here? You got a lot of business here. And I said yes. And I thought, okay, I'll do it for a bit, because I love California. I love living in California.
So you had more business readings here
Yes.
than you did.
I was getting good readings there. I had a good clientele there.
Okay.
But I was also building a clientele here. And I thought, well, maybe I just need to get away from all that,
Glitz and glamour.
my family that's there and all of that, and just get away from it and think about, you know, when you're with someone for a long time, you don't expect, you know, if you're planning on staying with them, whether it's good or bad, you don't expect, you know, sometimes the rug gets pulled from under you, and, you know. And it was very interesting because I wasn't happy for a long time. And I remember coming here, and one of my clients said to me, well, what are you going to do? And I said, you know, I have no idea. I said, you know, when you're with someone for so long, that's your life. And, you know, stepchildren and da-da-da, and you have household and got a great furniture and da-da-da, you know, settled, and I don't know. And they said, well, just remember one thing. And I said, well, you manifested this. You manifested this. And I thought, wow, talk about great advice. So that kind of made me think, and I thought, all right, I'll come back here for a while. And so I did. I stayed here for about 6 years, and I built up a clientele. And then I went back to California. Well, first I was going to go back to California, and then somebody offered me a job in D.C., working in politics.
Oh.
And, well, not actually in politics, but like a lobbyist position.
Mm.
And it just was not my cup of tea.
Mm-hmm.
I was dealing with senators and congressmen and people, and it was just not working. It was another, you know, like you're doing shows and you're talking about loving and teaching people about how to open up your heart, and then you go and you're dealing with this nonsense, which is nonsense, and they're really hurting people instead of helping people. And so I was ready for a nervous breakdown there. So that would last just about a little over a year, and then I said, I'm done. I'm done.
Right.
So I left and I went back to California. And when I went back to California,
You have to be about 100.
No, I'm close to it. No, but I went back to California and I stayed 3 years. But when I went back, I was gone for 6 years. And Northern California, all of a sudden, as I was leaving there, the techie people were just coming back. And when I went back, it's outrageously expensive. It's crazy. It's overrated.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, these kids are making millions, and you know, the rents are astronomical. And I found that my clients were not calling, they weren't that excited about seeing me. So, and, you know, if you get a psychic that you can trust or a medium that you can trust, you don't go to other people.
No.
You just go to the one that you can trust. So I kind of had thought, okay, I have to rebuild my business all over again. But in the meantime, I'm getting calls to come here. So I'm flying back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And I'm thinking, okay, I need to find a little studio because I have no more furniture and I got rid of everything. And I've got to find a studio, like a basement apartment where I can leave stuff here and go back to my little dog. And I was living in with my brother and adopted a little dog and all kinds of stuff. And make a long story short, 3 days before I was here getting ready to go back to California, a client offered me this house.
Oh, really?
She said, I got a house for you. And I've been here for 4 years, so.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but I was looking for a small, tiny place. But I'll tell you, that's just how it worked. It's just, and I've been working ever since, like busy.
Yeah.
Yeah, doing readings. And do interiors every now and then, but mostly readings.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So you're an Italian Catholic, gay man.
I am not. No, I'm in a what they call a what is it they call it? I'll think of it. Go ahead.
Okay. That you kind of brushed over that when you graduated high school, you started working, and you came out. So was that how old were you when you realized you were gay?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Late.
Was it late?
Yeah, probably when I was about 15 or 16.
Okay. So you
Yeah.
call that late?
I
didn't realize it until how.
I was with somebody. I was with a girl.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you were like, this is not right.
Not happening. Well, it was happening until I met a guy.
Okay. Well, there you go.
I went, oops.
Okay, so your struggle from 4 to that point was you wanted to be artsy and stuff.
Oh, that's all I thought of.
Right.
That's all I thought of. I ran away from home. I jumped out of windows with my little box of crayons, and I was like one of those.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So then you throw the gay on top of it. Because it's interesting to me that you got asked to leave your Catholic school because you were bold enough to question.
They asked me to do something that I didn't want to do.
Okay.
And I said I wasn't going to do it, and I was. That's a whole nother story.
Right.
And they said you will do it or you will not come back. And so I said, really?
And see, that's what I find. not only fascinating but also amazing. At that age, you were willing to stand your ground.
Oh, I stood my ground in
Yes.
second grade when the nuns had me on my knees and said, confess your sins because you're going to receive First Communion. You're going to have to go to confessional. And I thought, I'm a kid. I don't
What
sin.
sin do I
My
have?
father would kill me if I'm a kid. And I said to the nun, I said, Sister, I don't have any sins. I'm a kid.
Uh-huh.
She said, everybody has sins. Everybody has sins. And I said, well, I don't have any. She said, well, make them up.
And
And
you
that's
don't
when
know
I,
how many friends I had in high school
Right.
that that's exactly
and
what
I
they did.
thought, well, this is nonsense.
It's pointless.
It's
Yes.
pointless and nonsense.
But in second grade, you knew that.
But
In
yeah.
second grade, you used your voice.
Listen, I got kicked out of Cub Scouts. I got kicked out of Altar Boys. I got kicked out of everything because I said, why? It just didn't feel right.
See? Okay, so it didn't feel right, but you still took the path sometimes in your life. Like you said, you listened to other people.
Well, yeah, because I was told I didn't know what I was talking about.
Right.
You know, I was weird and wacky and, little kids, don't go around drawing pictures.
Right.
You gotta play baseball and you gotta go to school and you gotta go mea culpa, mea maxima culpa and all this stuff. And I would go and I'd say, well, what does that mean? And they'd say, you don't need to know that. And then, that's when everything was in Latin.
Right.
You don't need to know that, don't worry about it. I'm thinking, well, here you are teaching me and you don't know what the hell you're talking about, so why should I? It's nonsense. I don't like it here anyway. I was bored. I was
Right.
bored in school.
I
wanted to draw.
I think it's fantastic.
I wanted to build. I wanted to draw. I didn't want to.
No, but I think it's fantastic that, because there's many people that would have been, that have. You don't need to know that. Shut up, confess your sins, and they'd be like, okay. They fall in line out of fear.
Well, they still.
And they still do.
They still do. That's what blows me out of the water now is that everybody's afraid.
Yes.
And what are you afraid of?
And that's what the common thread with you has been. There hasn't been any fear. You've been like,
Well, there has been
That-
fear. There has been fear. Let me tell you, there has been fear because when you are raised a certain way and you're going against it, it's the unknown.
right.
So and nobody's telling you, oh yeah, you're creative and you're a creative being, but no one's telling you that that's okay to be a creative being.
Okay,
But,
so
yeah.
let me word this better.
Mhm.
There was fear, but you didn't let it stop you.
Yeah, because it didn't make sense. Didn't make sense. Relationships
But
sometimes
do
don't
you
make sense.
understand how rare that is?
Well, that's because I listen to this and I don't listen to this.
Right.
Which is what we're supposed to do.
It is what we're supposed
That's
to
what
do.
Spirit says.
But there's many out there that don't.
Well, I'm sorry.
I mean, you don't need to
Yeah.
be sorry.
No, I mean,
but look at the opportunities that you have been given because
Right.
even though there
But
was
fear. I'm a little old, and sometimes it would be nice to meet a companion or find someone to play with, and when you freelance, and I've been freelancing all my life practically.
Mhm.
You work on days when you have to work, and
Right.
your schedule is crazy.
It's never consistent.
It's never consistent.
Mhm.
So in that part, it's not that much fun. In
Right.
that part, but then but you have to live with yourself.
Mhm.
You have to live with yourself,
Absolutely.
and when you are always worried about pleasing the other person, I don't know. I've been in relationships and I find that when you're lonely, it's easier to be alone and be lonely than to be in a relationship and be lonely.
Yes.
I mean, that's really hard.
Yeah.
And, it's friends too. If you have friends and they make you feel bad all the time, then
They're not really friends.
it's not even that. It's just that it's more work
Uh-huh.
and it's not real. It's
Mhm.
not real.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I'm enjoying about this is you're very real, you're very authentic,
Thank you.
there are things that you don't want to address and that's fine.
Yeah.
But you know that every word that comes out that you're sharing is very true.
Well, it's my
Very
truth.
true
It's
to
my
you.
truth.
Yeah, it's
my
very true
truth.
to you,
Yeah,
and I like that.
it's my truth.
I like that a lot.
Yeah,
You do have a great energy.
thank you.
Now, I have to go back to, you've done the interior design and you've been very successful with it. Have you ever had any formal training?
Well, no. I mean, let's put it this way. I have now can honestly say that I've got almost 50 years doing it. Over 50 years doing it. So to me, that's a lot of training.
Yes, that's a lot of training. But I was thinking about you coming out of high school, and then the next thing you know, you're doing window designs in DC.
Well, no, out of high school, yes, I was doing interiors.
Interiors.
In the store, I was
Right.
doing, yes, yeah.
And there was
Well, I learned there. I learned how to use a staple gun, use a power saw, and in those days, we were taught by artists. We were
Okay.
taught by people that were creative. It's
So
not.
the
Today it's
training-
insert the poster in the
Right.
slot and then get up on a ladder and break your neck. In those days we used to break our neck, but we would break our neck painting or drawing or something we built or
Right.
something was created. Yeah.
Okay.
But
so it wasn't training that you would think of these days, like you go to school and get a degree.
No.
Okay.
no,
You got hands on.
hands on. Yeah.
Which,
Even when I was
way
designing clothes.
yeah, way better.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Okay, so tell me how you have blended interiors and your mediumship.
Well, the nice thing about me is that I know what I need or what I desire. I don't go after people. We grew up poor. I grew up poor. So I don't go after, I'm not greedy, let me put it that way.
Okay.
So I go after someone, and if I see that's what they can really afford, I work within their means.
You work within
Yeah,
your budget.
but I'm also intuitive.
Mhm.
So I get to know my client, and I give my client what they want. And I've blessed that I have an eye. So when I give it to them, it looks nice.
Do you sometimes shock them? Because I know as an
I always
intuitive,
shock
I was
them.
gonna say you know things that they don't even realize themselves.
Right, I always shock them, which is great. and I'm blessed because color has always been my thing. And I've done some jobs where I've gotten calls saying, so and so just your client just came to New York and they're flipping out over here because you picked this color for them and and then you have to and I say, well, tough.
They gotta trust me.
They have to trust me.
They
And
have
then
to trust
afterwards it's like, oh my God, the color was fabulous. Thank you.
Trust me.
Yeah.
So you say you're doing more
I must
readings.
have an interior decorator angel.
You
me.
must.
Yeah, exactly.
You
Yeah.
do more readings than you do interiors.
Yeah.
If somebody wanted to reach you about interior design, how would they do that?
Interiors by Dino.
Interiors by Dino?
Yeah. Or they can call me on, my either number. It's all the same number.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then that number's available on the website?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mhm.
perfect.
Mhm.
Because what we'll do is Jen adds it in the comments
Okay,
for the
great.
show. That
Mhm.
way people can get in touch
Yeah.
with you. Now, we had talked before the camera started rolling that you do group readings.
Yes. I do groups where I don't know how I got the name calling them angel parties, but one of my clients calls them an angel party years ago. And so I just call it an angel party. But what I'll do is I'll channel the room.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a group of spirits now. I've kind of graduated. The more you do it and the more you believe.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing you gotta remember to do is you have to believe in yourself.
Yes.
If you don't believe in yourself, then nobody around you will believe you. Okay?
Yes.
And that's very important. And I also learned that when you believe in yourself, you're trusting yourself, and when you're trusting yourself, you're trusting the universe.
Yes.
Because you are connected to the universe. We are all connected to the universe. And it still blows me out of the water sometimes, even when I'm with a bunch of people that are spiritual or in this world, in this mindset, that they don't just allow and just work together. I don't understand people that don't have compassion. Spirit says today that we have we don't have I forgot but we don't have compassion anymore for each other.
No.
So I'm sorry, your question was?
You do group readings.
Group readings. Yes, thank you. So and what I'll do is I'll put a group of people and I have a group of spirits that are my guides now.
Yes.
And they're part of the Divine Council. So they're really great. And they're characters. They're characters. And they come through and they'll answer. I let everyone have a round of questions. Mm-hmm. And people say, well, suppose... they'll come through and they'll ask you, do you really want me to tell you this in front of the other people? If they think they're going to be embarrassing you.
Okay.
They're really good. And they also, they will answer what you would ask, and then you would be over here. What you would ask a question, they will give you an answer, and then they will go to you and say, think about it. Because it reflects, So in the room, people are getting lots of information. Lots of information. So it's pretty good. It's pretty good. And everybody gets a round and then take a break and then we do another round. And in between we have a little food or
You get a little break.
Little break.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how could somebody inquire about that?
Call me.
Simple as that. Just give you a call and find out.
Yeah. Dino at dinocalabrese.com is the best way. Don't go to my Joyous. That's pretty much just a website where you can read about me and you can pay.
That's always good.
That's good. And it always has my schedule, and that's where I put my blog.
Okay.
And when I have a message to send out.
And that's on Joyous Dino.
That's on joyousdino.com. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you do individual readings as well.
Yes. I do half-hour and hour readings.
Okay. And you do a lot of shows.
A lot of shows.
You do a lot of shows.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any coming up that you would like to
I
share?
have one on Saturday coming up in Columbia, Maryland, and on Sunday in Fairfax, Virginia.
Okay. And they can find that on your website.
On my website, yes.
joyousdino.com.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Excellent. How old were you when you did your first reading?
Well, I kind of think I was very young.
Yeah.
I remember, but when I did my first reading.
Professional reading.
I was probably about 16, 15, 16, 17, yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Wow.
Yeah. And I didn't charge for it because I didn't know what, you don't know whether it's going to be right or wrong.
Right.
Yeah. But it's interesting because I believe we all have the gift, and I believe that we have to believe it. And I always, when you question it or second guess it, which we all do,
right?
If someone says, I don't like what you told me. Well, you don't know whether they don't want to hear the truth,
right?
Or they're in denial about something or whatever. But I always find that I'll freak out and I'll go, oh my God. And I tell this to a lot of psychics as well, that are starting out or developing it. I said, don't second guess it, because if you ask the universe for a sign, the universe will give you the sign. The universe will tell you, if you say, I'm questioning this, can you please give me a sign? The universe will give you a sign. you know.
And I've learned, because early on with me, I didn't want to question because I didn't want to think that didn't want anybody to think I was them. I didn't want them to think I wasn't trusting. So anything that came through, I just went with, which was good. Now I've gotten to the point where if I need further explanation or a sign or something, I have no fear in asking as many questions as I need to so that I can relay that information
Right.
with the clarity that the client needs. And that was something that I really had to learn, because the first, I'd say 3 years was about, don't ask any questions, just go with it. So yeah.
No, you always ask questions. Yeah, it's how we learn.
Exactly.
We're supposed to learn. That's why we're here.
Yes, I was just, trust. Well, if I question, then I'm not trusting.
Well,
Bullshit.
no. Yes, you're right.
Bullshit.
Well, yes, but you're also right that if you are questioning it, you aren't trusting.
Okay.
So the trick is you have to put life in the physical as perspective. So you have to put that question in the correct perspective, coming from the correct perspective.
Okay.
In other words, I am trusting.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to know whether I'm doing this correctly or not. Give me the sign.
Okay.
See, I am trusting that you will give me that sign.
Mm-hmm.
You get it? That's different.
I get that.
That's different than saying I'm not trusting. If I ask that question, I'm not trusting.
Yeah, right. Well, see, that's what I was feeling in the beginning.
Sure.
Now it's just, I ask more questions so that they can elaborate and give me more
Sure.
information.
Wouldn't it be great if our parents would say to us, "How are you feeling about this?" and then take it from there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And people my age, which is when you get, you look back and you think, if only I had this knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
If only I had this knowledge. In other words, when they had me on my knees saying, make up a sin. Why am I doing that? Well, okay, the reason you're doing that is because this is a business. This is a way that we keep everybody in line.
Mm-hmm.
This is, which is good,
Mm-hmm.
which is good, because there's a lot of people in this world, and you can't stick a bunch of cows in a corral and say, throw in 3 peanuts and say everybody go after that peanut. You have to say, get in line and I'll give you each a peanut,
Mm-hmm.
or else there's confusion and craziness.
Chaos.
So the more people, you gotta have some sort of what's the word? Structure. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And so that I'm blessed about going to Catholic school.
Okay.
That and you know what else? I'm very grateful that I've learned discipline. I was disciplined,
Mm-hmm.
and not all the time nicely, but I was disciplined, and you find that as you get older, if you want something, if you want something, if you're disciplined, you will achieve it.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't. You
Consistent
just can't do
action,
this.
exactly.
Yeah.
You have to take the action as well.
Exactly.
Now, it says on your Facebook page that you do intuitive counseling.
Yes.
What is that?
Well, when I first started doing this, which I never did it shows or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I was always referral, and still most of my people are referrals, which I prefer.
Mm-hmm.
If you use the word psychic, it's taboo.
Right.
So they were saying intuitive counseling.
Okay.
Yeah, but Spirit will tell you, always come through and say, intuitive counseling is really telling you to listen to your heart.
Yes.
Follow your heart. Find what you want and desire, what makes you feel good that you want and desire to do. And once you know what you desire to do, just go after it. And don't worry about how and where and when. Just go after it. Because even if you have a degree, and you're going to screw up.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to fall. It's until you get comfortable doing it or learn or understanding or totally understand the arithmetic of it, the mathematics of it, you're gonna mess up.
Right.
It's part of nature. It's part of learning.
I was going to say, it's another opportunity to learn.
Right. Exactly. So, if only we were raised out to do that instead of, better become a doctor. Better have babies.
Exactly. Start pulling them babies out. You have led a very interesting life, sir.
Thank you. I've had a great life. Thank you.
That's fantastic, and I feel there's a lot more to come.
Hallelujah.
You are not on your way out anytime soon.
Well, I'm not planning on it.
That is good.
Yeah.
That is very good. So we end the show with pearls of wisdom for our viewers. 2019, you see the memes all over Facebook. People were beat up. It was tough. It was an energetically tough year. And now we've moved into 2020.
Yeah.
Do you have any pearls of wisdom to help them move through into this new decade, this new year?
Yeah. This year more than ever, I think that you really need to listen to this. This is a big message that in my newsletter, I do a newsletter, and I channel things that are going on, but I channel it to get the answer. And, this is very important. The heart is very important. And it brings you to the center of who you are. You need to learn to embrace all that you are so that you could draw to your vibration of like mind. And that's the only way you're going to get through, because corporate politics, all of this nonsense, I think they're trying to times have changed.
Very much.
Times have changed. We're now in cyber, we're now in technology. These kids growing up, they come into the world to learn this. I mean, knowing this, we had to learn it. I didn't learn it very good.
I didn't do it very good.
But anyway, so we're in a transition. So you have all this energy going all over the place. You have to listen to this, and don't if you watch the news and you watch television, let it go in one ear and out the other. Just take it for what it is.
Don't get wrapped up in the fear.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
It has been very educational.
I hope I didn't talk too much.
No, not at all. Not at all. Wow. I would have never guessed that you had all of that life behind you. And all those fantastic experiences, only because my time with you has been very limited. So this was very fun to find out.
You can read it in my book.
You have a book?
I have a book, and I'm excited. My children's book is going to be coming out in another month or so. I have a book that I was told to write a long time ago. I'm not a writer, so I wrote about me.
Okay.
And about how to experiences that I had where I should have listened, and the result of not listening and then going back to listening, and where it brought me.
Well, that ties right into your
It's
pearl of
called
wisdom.
It's called Within Each of Us, and I have a children's book that Spirit's been, and it's not that I don't love children, but Spirit has been telling me to write this book for a long time, and I finally have gotten it together, and it should be out in the next month or so.
What's it about?
It's about a young boy and his stuffed animal.
Okay.
And how he discovers that we are all connected through love, and that if he stays in a place of love, that all that he desires will come to him.
Wow.
Yeah.
What an amazing message. What's the name of the book?
Well, we're going. I think it's called now. I think it's called Stephen and Plato's Adventure. Big Adventure. I don't know. It's been tweaked several times. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Outstanding.
It should be out. It's really good, and the illustrator is fabulous. So it's a great adult and child's book.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. You just whip another thing right up. I was a designer, I did this. Oh, and I'm an author too. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you, and don't forget you're awesome.
How long do we have to stay?